for the partnership meeting.
Sorry, I know. It's weird.
Along with like anything that the PowerPoints or whatever, those will go in the project tracker. There's a partnership meetings tab. The prioritization and Atlas information has been added to the the Atlas stuff has been added to the project tracker, and then also a link to get to the partnerships AGOL, and you guys will get a demo of that today. The other thing, we put outreach documents on there that you can print for the partnership, and then if you don't have a printer that can do some of the more advanced functions, you can always let one of us know when you can get some shiny outreach documents to you. And then I added some information to the project proposals about monitoring capacity, organizational monitoring capacity. And this is really just to give the monitoring committee an idea of what your organization can do and when they're making recommendations for monitoring, if you're going to need assistance with that. So again, a lot of words, but you guys can look at this later, or if you're poking around the project tracker and you have questions, let me know. Or definitely that help button is great, and the messages go to Sitka and they also go to us. So somebody will answer your questions. And then on the monitoring page, we just added some resources. So some information about the UAV squadron, which is the trained drone pilots in the basin, and then also a request form. So if you have a project that you would like a drone flight done, a request form, you can download that and send it to somebody. I think if they want to go to you, or drone request form. Send everything to her. Yeah. Any questions, go to her. And then the progress monitoring framework from the partnership is on there. So just these documents that sometimes are requested, you can now download those on the project tracker. And then information about the Bridge Creek and Middle Fork IMWs. The other stuff I'm going to let Nick talk about, the monitoring resources that they added. So I don't know, are you queued up, Nick?
Yeah, I think so, Kristen. If I share my screen, will you guys see it?
Very philosophical question.
I guess we can. Yeah, you can go ahead and start.
What do you think, people? Can you hear and see my screen?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can see your screen. We just have an issue with the projector here, but I think you're just about back up.
Sorry, Nick, 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, I couldn't be there.
A really pretty field of poppies.
Right.
Maybe stop sharing your screen real quick while we get this sorted out.
How was that?
Oh, now is that all? Okay.
Anyone have an idea?
If we can't get there, I can just give a quick rundown.
No, I think we got to path settings.
Okay. That's a lot of technology.
Extend display. Okay. Extend these displays.
Sure.
But that's what it was. Wait, yeah, can you?
Sorry, everyone. Talks amongst yourselves.
Sorry, hybrid
Sorry,
meetings
people.
are an extra challenge. Okay, so we're. Oh, we're on a different.
Yeah. This is-
Oh, there we go. Cool. You're trying different. Thanks. Yay. Okay, yeah, Nick, go ahead and share your screen.
Give it a try. How's that?
Yes, got it.
Yes.
All
Great.
right, we're back in action.
Okay, go for it, Nick.
Okay, thanks everyone. Nice work. I'm just going to share a little bit from the monitoring coordination team, and it definitely includes some new additions to the project tracker. So last time we talked about making the riverscape monitoring protocols developed by OWEB and others available to the group. So this is kind of a tier 2 monitoring tool, and it's field survey protocols that support documenting structural elements and geomorphic or habitat units, really designed for structural treatment, restoration projects like BDAs and such, but really should have a wide application to a lot of restoration that the partnership is involved with. So I just wanted to also point out that these protocols really support metrics that are very much linked to floodplain connectivity and fish habitat capacity. So just a little reminder of what we're talking about. But what we really wanted to say was that we went and made all of these resources available on the project tracker, which was a really easy process. I really actually like the project tracker, and it's a cool tool that Sitka has cooked up for you guys. So you'll now find a monitoring page. On that page, you can do things like download the survey protocols directly, as well as the data collection application for the field. There's an easy link to request help if you just want to chat or send an email about anything related to the survey protocols. You'll also find five videos that should give you everything you need to, from downloading the resources to doing a survey and getting that survey data onto your desktop in Excel. So don't judge, the videos are kind of rough, but they are there for you. We've also got a FAQ that'll try to update with questions I get if anybody tries to enact this protocol. And the last thing I want to say is that this is getting tested extensively on some of the projects that are being implemented by Gilliam on 30 Mile. So I think we're going to have if people don't run with this, that's totally okay. We're going to have a lot to kind of report about the efficacy, the speed of the surveys, and then really the relevancy to the partnerships framework and the results chain and the objectives. So a couple other things that the monitoring group is involved with, so the monitoring coordination team is going to be involved with reviewing of fall proposals that we just heard about, with really an eye towards learning opportunities, where can we take advantage of monitoring opportunities and make monitoring recommendations. We've also been reviewing the current metric lists, especially in the context of these new projects being put up, and being entered into the project tracker. We've discussed potentially adding more information directly into the tracker, more context about individual metrics, potentially adding resources of where, how you might measure metrics, define metrics and things like that directly on the tracker. So just ideas that might be coming. Last thing I wanted to mention was, this is kind of a larger initiative by my group at Anna Branch and Ecological Research for development of kind of standardized GIS-based survey protocols. I think this is really more of an interagency effort, but I think in the future it's going to offer a ton of value to the partnership, especially with all the information you guys are getting with the drone squadron. So just something I thought I'd mention. This is in the works, and I'll try to keep the group aware as these tools come out. So that's it. Feedback is welcome and questions are welcome now or just email me. Thanks, Kristen. You can have it back.
Thank you so much, Nick. We just want to open up to questions about anything Hannah or Kristen or Nick said, online or in person. Yeah.
Perfect.
Anyone online?
Yeah, I would be interested. Is it small enough, the Riverscape monitoring protocol? I know you just mentioned it's on the project tracker, but is that small enough, file size wise, that could be sent out to the larger group by email? Just so we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, I'll send, yeah, please remind me, let's send around a direct link to that protocol document. It's also, it's on the tracker. There's a link. Anybody can just go and download it.
Okay.
It's there. Yeah. I think the protocol itself is, it probably is 20, 30 megs and probably a little clunky to just email around. So a download.
Okay. Okay, good to know. Thanks.
Yeah, Nick, this is Jeffrey Key. Hey, I just wanted to check the protocol. Do you think it's a good idea to have stream segments evaluated in order to get in line for OWEB funding or other alternative fundings from NOAA or such? And then I just wanted to know, is the protocol simple enough to where a layman can actually collect the data and submit it? Thanks.
So that's a great question. I think that the protocol is maybe overkill for just seeking, proposals or seeking funding. I'd say it's more appropriate at kind of that partnership's more tier 2 level when you want to really have specific, metrics related to fish habitat quantity or, in general, are you meeting goals like floodplain connectivity? It's not, it is rapid, but not super rapid. Your second question, yes, the intention is that a layman could implement it that has a reasonable understanding of, fluvial taxonomy or a basic, could point to a riffle in a pool. Jeffrey. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay. Yeah, and Denise put the link in the chat there. So if you're online, you can follow that. Next up, Herb is gonna give us a little presentation about the Lower John Day Place-Based Integrated Water Resource Plan update. Take your time. Here, I'll just press
Okay. Morning, everybody. It's nice to see everybody in person. It's been a long time. So I'm going to talk about the Lower John Day place-based planning method that we have. It was actually, it grew out of the Lower John Day working group through the partnership. I believe the partnership actually did a support letter for us to get that grant back in 2016. It's through the district. But it was quite the deal. We had over 60 meetings. Our integrated water resource plan was adopted by the Oregon Water Resources Commission in June of this year after all that work. And I'm just going to kind of go through our process real quick and what we came up with at the end. I apologize for the super cheesy our place, our need. This is from the Water Resource Commission presentation that I cut down for today. Well, as you all know, this is our planning area at Lower John Day. And won't read all of that, but the Water Resource Department is a pretty novel idea for those of you who are aware of it. We had 4 different pilots, Mid-Coast, Harney, Upper Grand Ronde, and then ours, Lower John Day, to kind of spread out throughout the state and look at planning water as a resource in the local communities rather than in Salem. We just received guidance documents from Salem and had our own local work group work on the water issues. I won't read all that either, but there was 5 steps. One was to build a collaborative working group, which we already had thanks to the partnership. 2 was to basically gather all the data, how much water as a resource is there. 3, what are the needs, the demands on that resource. 4, what are the strategies that we can come up where we can use that resource most efficiently. and then approve the plan, which is what happened in June, and then basically to implement what we have in our plan. So we were funded in 2016. A lot of folks in this room were part of that, and we had other stakeholders involved as well. Planned it a little bit differently than like the partnership is, where we have our Atlas watersheds. Since it's a water resource department project, they have what is called water availability basins, which are just super weird watersheds. But all of our prioritization is based on those boundaries. And we just kind of, what are our needs? How can we use that water across all sorts of stakeholders? So a little bit different than like the FIP initiative, which is just based on native fish. We are interested in native fish in Lower John Day, but we also looked at recreation. This is a kind of a neat graph of different types of boats, and looking at CFS and timing of the year of when you can use, say, a kayak versus a drift boat. Of course, we looked at agricultural use in the whole basin. I'm going to go through this pretty quick, only 15 minutes, but also looked at domestic use wells, municipal, and of course looked at climate change throughout the process. And at the end, we identified 19 critical issues in the planning area, mostly by the dot voting and other things like that. But it all kind of came out just very similar to the John Day Basin partnerships, critical issues and strategies, but these are just our top 5 out of the 19. And number 5 is mostly like juniper brush management, forest stand improvement type projects. And this is just kind of a cool Jason Davies, really fall blue clouded. Yeah. Anyways, this is from our executive summary of our final plan, I believe. This is kind of insufficiency right there in the middle, punching the face. And just real quick on our strategies, came up with 46 different strategies for those 19 critical issues. Again, over 60 meetings. This was a hoot. Guiding principles, thanks OWRD gave us kind of all our strategies had to meet all 7 of these guiding principles. So that was tricky in some cases. Like I said, our prioritization is a little bit different because our boundaries are different and we're looking at all sorts of different stakeholders. But it was nice to see that for the most part, the priority watersheds match up really good with John Day Basin Partnerships prioritization. So now we have our plan, and then we have a handful of phases. We have all those strategies. And, 22 to 25, we'll try to jump on 10% of those and then expand over time. This might be a little ambitious, but it seems like these always are. This is just an example of one page out of our work plan. It looks very similar to issues and strategies and priorities compared to the John Day Basin Partnership Strategic Action Plan. This is just for critical issue number 1. And just kind of next steps, going to continue meeting quarterly, kind of transition more into the Lower John Day working group and not just focus on place-based planning anymore. Continue to fill data gaps, and I'll talk about that in a second. Work with our producers, municipalities, and really, hit the ground running with restoration work. So we're lucky to have a couple of large-scale initiatives in the Lower John Day funding wise. So the FIP that everyone in the room knows about. We also have an RCPP through NRCS. This is just kind of what the critical issues that we see the FIP dollars being used for. And then the RCPP, same issues, but with critical issue number 5, RCPP has more uplands type brush management, forest improvement, spring development work. With this, we're able to receive some ARPA funding from OWRD. They received $1 million. And through the 4 planning groups, they gave each about 250,000, got 249 coming. 5 tasks with those dollars is to continue meeting. That's an implementation coordination. We're going to work with Rebecca on working on a biological assessment for process-based restoration. Rock Butte Creek floodplain analysis. We've done similar analysis on 30 Mile and Hay Creek, but that's looking at the new LiDAR data that we have and just prioritizing the low-hanging fruit as far as BDAs and PALs. Then I do a more robust irrigation system inventory in the lower John Day than we could with the place-based planning, and then see how we can help out the small communities. And that's with that 249,000. Real quick, we're also applying for a OWRD feasibility grant to look at above ground storage options. That was critical issue number 4 for the place-based planning. And so looking for about 100 grand there, and then do an OWebTA grant to do a in-stream flow incremental methodology study. And I don't know what the heck that is, but they say that we have to do it. And Steph and Lindsay are going to help, I think, hopefully. But look at the ecological flow needs in the lower John Day. And it seems like they want you to do one of those if you're going to be doing an above ground storage feasibility study. I think that's it. Yep.
Cool. Anybody have any questions for Herb online in person? Okay.
Well,
So
I just-
yeah.
I have one comment. This is Jeffrey Key. Again, I want to thank Herb, and I think the Gilliam SWCD staff needs to be commended for herding this group. But I just wanted to say I think that this process was worth it for the lower John Day group. I came in late to the process, and one of the things that I would just like this group to keep in mind is that a lot of these planning efforts are based solely on voluntary efforts, moving into the future. And there hasn't really been a hard look at enforcing existing protections for streams in Oregon across the state. It's not just unique to the John Day Basin, but there are laws in place that address some of the strategies that we have. And I just think that there needs to be a conversation about how do we use the existing tools that are in place, including enforcement of existing laws. So I understand a lot of our agencies don't operate under enforcement strategies, but I think as a conservation community, it's something that we should address, and that it's a tool in the toolbox that we really should consider. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, so we're a little ahead of schedule. We'll take a 10-minute break. We've got coffee and tea over there, bathrooms over here. If you came in late, if you please make sure to sign our sign-in sheet over there. And yeah, we'll meet back at 9:53. Hi, McKay. Do you want to go ahead and start sharing your screen and we'll see if we can make sure it all works? Great. I think it's more like voice activated. Okay, great. We can see that. All right, yeah, let's all start coming back together. Take our presentation up here. She's gonna walk us through what she's been working on. There is more coffee over here.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you great. Thanks.
Great, wonderful.
All right, go for it.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna walk everyone through the John Day Basin Aquatic Opportunities application. There's still some work to be done, I think, on the data side. Excited about hearing all of the different presentations and different opportunities to help out on the GIS side. So I'm going to walk you through essentially how to utilize the application. The application can be found on the ArcGIS Online homepage. If you just scroll down, it's shown right here. You just click on it and it will pop up on a new tab. It might take a second to load because there is a lot of data held in this application. So just be patient with it popping up. Once it pops up, it should be fine. It should be fairly responsive and straightforward. You'll see here the name of the application, the last time that the data was updated, and then a user guide. If you click on the user guide, you'll have the user guide will pop up on a new screen. And this will really walk you through what it is for, and then the how to work your way around the map. And then it gets into some of the visualization tools that I'll go through as well. And then it goes into some of the widgets that we have. Primarily, what I think will be most useful for all of you will be the query and filter tools, but we'll talk about them all. But those are the quick and easy, if you want quick questions answered, those are the two tools that you'll probably want to use. They're very similar to one another. One is like a quick visualization. The query is more data intensive. I want to download just these stream reaches with all of their restoration opportunities in a CSV. So there's that user guide there. This is what it looks like. You can, if over here on the navigation tools, home is always going to get you back to the full page. You can also zoom in and out using these buttons, but you can also scroll in using your mouse. Zooming in, zooming out, rolling out. If I wanted to say I wanted to look at, I'm going to Monument today, so I could just type it in, Monument, Oregon, and that'll take me right to where Monument is. I'm going to go home and come back out. And my apologies, my mom always says to stop giving her vertigo. So if you all need me to slow down on the zooming around in and out, please let me know. I don't want to make anybody sick. Sorry, I also have a puppy behind me, so trying to maintain that situation as well. If we go over to the tools over here, this is the legend tool that'll show you everything that you're looking at currently on the screen. If you go to the layers tool, this is kind of getting deeper into the data that is actually involved here. It gives you each of the layers that are in this application. If you wanted to see what the actual legend is, you can just click on each of these. I will say that ones that are kind of grayed out means that they are not visualized yet. You have to go in a couple of clicks in order to turn those on so that you can see those. And so you've got also some of these are grouped. So for Oregon fish passage barriers, if you turn that on, you're just going to see the priority barriers, but you can turn on with the legend there. You can turn on whatever pieces of those fish barriers that you would like. If I go back to the legend, it's going to show everything that is on the screen that I've clicked in here. So I'm going to turn off a couple of layers here. And let me turn off NHD. Some of the layers are a little, it's off, okay. Some of the layers are a little heavy, and so they might have a harder time with the refresh rate. But what you're looking at on the screen now should be pretty quick to view. We recognize also that the biological scores, the total scores are different for each watershed, but we thought that it was a really good idea just to help you all visualize what it all looks like as one. And you've got it broken into these color schemes. If you wanted to dig deeper, I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So that's the layers. If you want to change the base map gallery, we have lots of opportunities here. We find that the dark gray canvas really pops the stream layer out, but you're welcome to use any of these. And then the print button is really helpful. This is for if you wanted to print a map to look at in the field or whatnot, or exchange some information. This is a good place to do that. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. So those are the kind of visualization tools and the layers that you'll be using. I'm going to go over to the widgets now. A couple of these are pretty straightforward. And then we'll get into the query and filter widgets that I think, again, are going to be your most helpful. There is the select tool, which is pretty straightforward. I'm going to I want to select, let's say I'm going down here. I just want to select everything that's in here. So it's going to select everything that's visualized on the screen. It will give you an idea of how many reaches. So there are 19. It'll show I've grabbed 2 Atlas watersheds. If I wanted to look at those, I could either export them directly to a CSV, just the ones that I've grabbed, or I can look at it in the attribute table that'll pop up. You can pull this up or down. It'll show you that it will show you all of the ones that you've selected. This is currently filtering by map extent, but you can change that so that it's so that you could see when I pulled up my cursor, a lot of stuff went away. So you can select by entire extent. You can select by just what you're looking at on the screen. So that's just some really quick information that you can get. You can get the statistics there. You can get it in other places as well. But this shows you that the total biological score is, the range is 0 to 36 with an average of 19, standard deviation of 13. So just gives you really quick information there, as well as the Atlas watersheds. So I'm going to clear that. So that's just a selection tool. The measurement tool is pretty straightforward. If I'm in this area and I want to measure just this portion, if I wanted to look at area, I'm just going to grab that. And that's going to give me the acres of that area. If I wanted to look at distance, it's the same thing from here to here. That gives me my total miles. You can change this to be kilometers, feet, nautical miles. And then the last one is, hey, I want to go back to this spot. I'm just going to grab the latitude and longitude of that spot. If I want to also put the coordinates into find where I am, you can do that as well. So if you don't know the exact name of the town or where you're going, you can use those coordinates as well. So I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to talk about drawing, and drawing I think of is mainly a way to communicate between folks. I think it'd be really useful to identify certain areas that you want to say, hey, can you go check this area out? I'm going to zoom into this area and say, I'm just interested in this area of Trout Creek. So I want to impart that, let's go out and take a look at this. I'm going to use a circle here, this guy, and I want it completely transparent. So now I'm going to draw a circle there. It will identify this is the area that I want to investigate. Let's say I want to print this. I'm going to go over to print, and then you can either just print the map only, or I think it's more advantageous to print it in landscape or however you would like it printed. I'm printing this one to PDF. The reason why I think it's easier to do a landscape or a different type other than map only is because it does give you a legend and a scale bar, north arrow, those types of things that that you would want. You can also name it a different title. I could have named this Trout Creek if I wanted to. So that will create a map in just a second. Not sure why it's taking this long. My apologies. But let's go back to, while that's creating a map, I did want to talk about these numbers that are popping up. These are the scores. They won't pop up right away. You'll need to go in a little bit to see those scores. But that gives you a really quick idea of the scores that you're looking at. If I open this up, it opens it up in a different map, and you can see here, it shows the drawing that I've just done. It shows only the ranges of scores that are shown on the map, as well as the Atlas watersheds. It's got the scale bar and some other useful information there. You can always clear your prints, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to clear my drawing because I don't really need that. So I'm going to go back to the full extent and back to legends so that I see what is on the screen. And I'm going to go to, I'm actually going to skip over to filter because I think filter is the easiest way to visualize things. So if you wanted to get really quick information, it's going to be your go-to. If you wanted to go dive deeper into the data, query is the one that you're going to use. Again, you'll see them, and it's a very slight difference. It's just one is more, I think one is a little bit more complicated. If you're looking for quick answers, I think filter is the way that you want to use it. So for the filter tool, I'm going to turn it off while I select. But let's say I wanted to select Beach Laycock. I just want the reaches in Beach Laycock. So I'm going to turn this on. And what that does is it turns everything else off. I'm just looking at the watershed that I'm interested in, Beach Laycock. Let's say I just wanted scores, let's say above 20. So when I click on that, it's going to take away anything that's under 20. It's only going to show me scores above that. If I just wanted scores between 20 and 40, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to take out any of the really high values. It's going to just show me the scores between 20 and 40. And then we also have less than, if you're interested in that. So as I'm deleting these out of the query or out of the filter, you can see them pop back on. So let's say I wanted just Beach Lake Hawk that have, let's see, channel reconstruction. So I'm going to put yes in here, and it's just going to show me the streams that have that restoration opportunity. If I wanted to do channel reconstruction and pool development, I can say yes. Now, again, this is a cumulative filter. So this, what you're seeing here is the only reach that has both of these as yes. It can have other ones as yes, but it definitely has these two, pool development and channel reconstructions, as yes. So it'll allow you to grab quick information, very quick questions. It has for the attributes or the filter opportunities. There are, we have the reach name, which is the GIS name that we're utilizing in ArcGIS Online. Some of you are used to utilizing those. So they are all listed here. You have also Atlas Watershed, which is very similar. It's just utilizing the actual map that you have and the names in that map. And so we've got either one of these. It does a similar thing. It's just that whatever name that you're used to using, you could use there. So if I wanted to do Beach Lake Hawk here, when I go to Atlas Watershed, it's going to say, hey, I don't have anything to select except for Beach Lake Hawk because you've selected it above. And then the other attributes to filter on are the scores that I went through. And then you have opportunity. Opportunity is going to be a really what we consider the unique identifier for each of the reaches. So if I just wanted to check this guy out, I would click that, and then let's see where that is. So what is that? Bear Creek private includes lower sections of that will be on there. So if you really want to dig in and get to a specific area, you can use that opportunity. Ranking has a tier schema. Unfortunately, when you do have some of these options, if so say there's two tier ones here, one does not have a space, one does. We're pulling this directly from the data. And so that's something that we can work on in the future, is cleaning that up and making sure that there's just one tier one with a space underneath it. And then it goes into the aquatic opportunities. So you have A1 all the way through to A36. Some watersheds had an A37, so I kept that on there. And I believe one watershed had a stream _ T that had some attributes in there, so I kept that as well, just in case. If neither of these apply to your areas, you do not need to use them. But I wanted to make sure that everyone had the opportunity to utilize this in the way that they wanted to. The same thing with watershed. These are just attributes from the actual GIS that we've pulled in that you can choose. For this one, it's all of the ownerships that had been listed in the GIS. Percentile, and then watershed. The watershed is from the actual GIS data, so it is going to be slightly different from the names that you see above. If you wanted to be really nerdy and geeky, you could come into this custom filter. The custom filter is going to filter any layer that you really want on here. So if you're used to working with NHD, you could utilize NHD. And let's say I just wanted the name to be Abbey Creek. I'm going to utilize a unique identifier here, and I've chosen Abbey Creek. If I turn this on, I'll need to turn on the actual NHD, and I'm going to turn off this, and that will just show me, and I think I would need to know exactly where I am in the world, but that will show me Abbey Creek. That'll be the only one that will pop up. That's getting into the weeds a little bit, but I did want to show you that you had the opportunity to really customize your filter and really get down into some more information if you wanted to query that. Another thing that I wanted to point out is we are looking at all the scores. If the scores were 0, which we do need to do some investigation into Johnson Muddy service. If the scores are 0, they are not labeled. So the only labels come out when they are above 0. You can see here that these scores are mostly 10s. So they're still in that bracket of yellow, but they do have a score. It's not 0. There are some reaches that I don't have attributes for in the GIS. And so those are shown in particular here in Reynolds Grub. So those are attributed there. So that is the filter. So super quick information. If I wanted to, I just want to know anything that's greater than 50 in the entire watershed, it's going to pull out just those reaches. So you can see it gets into the higher numbers, which are mostly here. You can see some light blue here and here. So quick ideas on the scores, quick ideas on, I just want these opportunities. So it's just going to pull up those opportunities. Okay, so that is the filter. The query is very similar again, but it will allow you to dive deeper into the data. So same thing, you can select what reach you'd like. If you wanted to pare it down that way, you can select by scores, you can select by opportunity, and then all of the actual opportunity actions down here, as well as A37, stream _T, and then sub-watershed mapped owner percentile and the watershed from the actual GIS. The more intensive piece here is that, let's say I just want to grab items within this area. It will allow you to do that by just saying, okay, I just want this area, but I want also the filters to apply from up here. So in this area, I just want scores that are greater than 10. When I, let's see, and then you would name your query. So greater than 10 spatial. And I'm going to apply that. And what that's going to do is create a whole new layer here with everything that is greater than 10 in the spatial area that I've chosen. If I just wanted to look at those, I can go over to my layers list and I can turn off the aquatic opportunities. That's the colorful layer underneath. And I can just look at the reaches that I've selected that are greater than 10 in score. It also gives you the displayed number of features, so 55 of those. I can, when I click on this, it's going to take me right to the result that I'm looking at, that I'm interested in. If you scroll down, each of these 55 are listed in this long list. That doesn't seem to be like super helpful, but what is really helpful is that I can just export this to a CSV. If I wanted just these reaches that are above 10 scores that meet the other opportunities that I'm interested in, then I've got that in a CSV. You can also download them as a GeoJSON or feature collection. These get into more spatial features that are a little bit, you'd need to know or have the software to be able to export those into a spatial piece. You can also view it in the attribute table here. And so those are the results. You've got the query that pops over here. This will stay as a query until you close the application. When you open the application again, it will go away. So keep that in mind. I can also print what we're looking at on the screen. And if I go back to the legend, it's just showing me the ones that I've selected. If I wanted to pare this down further, you could pare it down further by anything that you see here and run it again. It'll create a whole new layer. Make sure if you want to keep your layers separated that you're naming them, what you're actually querying them on. And then if you are done with it, you don't want to see it anymore, you can go in here and just remove the result. That's going to remove it for good from the application. And then I'm going to turn back on my aquatic opportunities. So the last thing that I will say, so by having the query, it just allows you to do a lot more deeper dives into the actual information that you're interested in and export it quickly into a spreadsheet or print a map of it. The last thing that I wanted to say is that when I click on any of these pieces, it's going to give me a pop-up. It's going to give me a pop-up of what I've just clicked on. So what I've just clicked on here is the opportunity of North Fork, John Day Private, Dry Creek to Deer Creek. But I've also, in this area, if you do this little arrow here, it'll give you all of the pop-ups that I've clicked on. So in clicking on this, I've actually clicked on another opportunity. And these are all going to be opportunities except for, yep, nope, they're all opportunities. So in this one area, I've clicked on 8. If I wanted to zoom in, you're probably going to be able to just get the opportunity that you're interested in. Since I've zoomed in and the NHD layer turns on, I also have that I'm selecting here. If I do this arrow, I also clicked on the lower North Fork John Day River 8 Mile watershed, and then the aquatic opportunity pops up here with all of the information. So a lot of pop-ups. You can control whether you want to see labels or not, if that's too overwhelming. There's a lot of information that you could take a really deep dive in. You could also stay way far out at a much larger scale and just kind of pop on things. I encourage everyone to get in there and play around with it. You're not going to break it. You're not going to, nothing's editable. So you're not going to be able to change anything. So there's no, you're not going to lose anything. So please, I would encourage all of you to just get in there and play with some questions that you have in mind. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. We can also do some filters and queries if somebody has some specific questions in mind.
Great, thank you so much, McKay. That was awesome. We have some questions online. Jesse wants to know if you could demonstrate how to view the Atlas sub-watershed rankings tier 1, 2, or 3.
Yep, so let's, I'm just gonna do a quick filter because it's just super easy. In the sub-watershed, that's all the way at the bottom. There's a lot of attributes. So sub-watershed, if you wanted to do tier 1, you just click that on. And then that's going to return just the tier 1 sub-watersheds that you have there. You can also do, again, the same thing on the query, and then you'd be able to export that. And I can show you as well. So let's do that. let's undo this so it pops everything back up. If I want to go over to the query, and I'm going to say in the query, I just want sub-watershed that's all the way here at the bottom. I want, let's do tier 2 in this case. I'm going to say tier 2 watershed. And I want it in the entire, I want the full extent of the map. I don't care where it is. I just want to grab everything that's a tier 2, and I'm going to apply that. And that's just going to return the tier 2 sub-watersheds. If I wanted to turn off everything underneath there, I just turn off that aquatic opportunities. In the query, you'll also see there are 35 that I've selected, and you'll be able to click on those and they'll zoom you right to the specific opportunity. You can also, again, export it in the CSV or some of the JSON pieces. You can look at the statistics, which gives you the min and max scores of all of the ones that we've queried, and the number of opportunities there. Does that make sense?
Jesse, does that answer your question?
Is there, do you have the actual tier 1, 2, 3 shape files for that? I noticed when you click tier 1 and exported it, it didn't look like it brought the right data set up. So
I will, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Wondering if there's the option to look at just the sub-watersheds and a ranking visualized for tier 1, 2, and 3, not the opportunities. Thanks.
I gotcha. Okay. Yes. So this is mainly by opportunity. So there is a potential that if you wanted to show the ranking of visualize the ranking of tier 1, 2, and 3, I think that might be, this is meant to query and filter. If we did actually look at identifying them in the tier way, but I think that it wasn't as meaningful as the actual scores. But we can talk about, I could always add another layer. I just get adding another layer just for visualization and symbology. We can definitely do that. I think it would need to be off, but something that you could turn on if you'd like. The query and the results or the filter tools are all meant to query and filter the actual aquatic opportunities layer. So just keep that in mind if that's something that you wanted to add on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand the need not to add another layer. It's not adding one though. If you look at the Atlas watersheds, it'd just be displaying the tier 1, 2, or 3 rankings of those.
Of the actual watersheds?
Yeah, those watersheds that are zoom dependent. I'll stop there. We can continue offline if needed.
Great. Yeah, let me think about that. I will try to think about how to visualize that without overstimulating or having too many pieces of visual information excuse me, on the page. It could just be that we could color it and make it super transparent. So that's a potential. Let me think on that, because if there's something that I can do there, I'll definitely do it.
Anyone in person have any questions or thoughts on how they want to use this? Demonstrations, yeah.
I have a question. Are the maps created in this application?
Did you hear that?
I didn't, I'm sorry.
Are the maps that are created in this application geo-referenced?
They are not geo-referenced. They are just PDFs. Let me see if there is you've got TIFF, JPEG, and PDF is really your only options. So they are not geo-referenced. You could utilize different base maps to help orient yourself, but they are not geo-referenced.
Any other questions in person? Anything else online? And just thoughts on how you might use this or reactions to share? Great. Yeah, and I think, yeah, getting at Jesse's point, and I think if there's anything else that people want to see, like, feel free to email Hannah, and Hannah can pass those along to McKay. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That was a great demonstration.
Yes, and can I add one more thing that I totally forgot that's pretty fun, I think, is you do have these different layers here that you can turn on and off. I'm a LiDAR nerd, so I absolutely love looking at things in LiDAR. If you do turn on the LiDAR model, you'll see that there are several areas that are not covered yet. But if you do zoom in, you'd have to zoom in pretty far to actually see some of the bigger detail in these areas, but you can also turn on the highest hit as well. That'll give you an idea of tree cover and foliage in certain areas. And then you do have the fish distribution by species run, and then those Oregon fish barrier, fish passage barriers. So there's a lot of other information on here that you might help with navigating and getting at certain opportunities, especially when it comes to upland pieces too.
Michael Lambert has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, McKay just hinted to that a little bit, but I was thinking in other watersheds we're working, the ability to put something like this on a tablet and then overlay with monitoring data, you know, that's already been kind of synthesized. And that may be where the steering committee and the partnership is going. But what a great opportunity. Thanks for this tool. And I think it's going to be very valuable for partners. And, you know, if we can take something like this and have it readily available on a tablet with lots of different overlays of like spawning and, you know, monitoring work that's easily put into GIS layers, like you have the passage barriers, that's great. This will be a great tool in the future. Thank you so much. So
Absolutely, and thank you. Again, please get in there and utilize it. And I totally agree. I feel like there's a real opportunity there for not only partnering with others to gather information in the field, but also visualize information in the field, because I know that that's really important. Some of these layers are difficult to use with disconnected when you don't have you know, wireless or cell, but as I have been several times out and didn't know where I was going, but there are opportunities there to cache backgrounds to make sure that you know where you are. But yes, I think that there are a lot of opportunities to push data out to the field and process it coming back in.
All right, thank you, McKay. We're gonna go ahead and take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 10:42. Just know the last part of the meeting here, we're gonna be asking all our partners to share their top 3 accomplishments for the year. So we need to think about those, and we do that over the break. We'll start with our online participants and then go in person. So we'll see you again at 10:42.
Thank you, McKay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, can we see your copy?
She wrote. I was on the phone.
Maybe she used it. Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, so cute. Oh, what a good boy.
Yeah.
His name is Larry B. Larrabee.
I love it. Yeah.
Thank
Your
you.
presentation was riveting for him.
Both her and there's Slim.
Oh,
They're
tell me
very
about
good
the layers to dog
separated.
treat.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
So before we get going on all our accomplishments and how great we are, I'm just gonna go over the chat that's been happening online, just so our in-person people can know what's been going on there. Adrian was kind of wondering if there was more interest in scheduling an in-person protocol training workshop based on what Nick reviewed earlier. So if that's something you're interested in, let us know. Hannah, if you want to say anything, I'm just going over the chat. Okay, great. Rebecca let us know that there's a grant due on October 5th about coastal habitat restoration and resilience grants for underserved communities. It's still open. So get in touch with her if you want the link to that. I think, yeah, just a lot of appreciation for McKay's work. I haven't read this one yet. She's gonna look into Jesse's question. Yeah, so she said, thank you so much. And it's great watching all the work you're doing. And oh, you can read it right there. Okay, cool. So online, it looks like we have fewer people now that I said we were going to present. But we have a list of the organizations we've seen. If our representative, Aaron's not here, from someone from Trout Unlimited, or they still, okay. Okay, yeah, if someone from Trout Unlimited could let us know like the accomplishments you're most proud of this past year, and also if you have any updates to share with the group, feel free to do that.
Sure. This is Jessica Humphreys. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, so we are Trout Unlimited in terms of water transactions in the John Day. We're relatively new there, although we do water transaction in-stream flow restoration work throughout the Columbia Basin. My focus area is up here in Northeast Oregon in the Grand Ronde Basin, primarily like the Lostine, Wallowa, Catherine Creek. But we inherited some transactions from the Freshwater Trust that we're carrying out in the basin. And unfortunately for this year, we don't really have any solid accomplishments in this geography. We are still working with our main funder, the Columbia Basin Water Transaction Program, to kind of determine how much and at what level they're going to support us pursuing transactions in the John Day, which we would really like to be able to do. So we're starting by, trying to plug in more to this partnership to learn about what you guys are doing, and just let folks know that even though I'm based up in Enterprise, I can be a resource if you have any potential water transactions associated with your work. And we've been also kind of fielding inquiries from when folks are wanting to do water transactions. The folks from Cherry Creek Ranch and Antone Ranch have reached out to us, and we're trying to figure out what we can do there and how to be more proactive and kind of build a more active water transaction program in the John Day going forward. So I guess hopefully, this time next year, I will have more true accomplishments to share with the group. And other than that, I'd just like to say that, we're available as a resource for folks if you have any potential water transactions or questions, or just want help with any of that. I know the water stuff can be kind of in its own world. So we'd like to be a resource for folks. And while we're trying to figure out how to kind of establish a larger presence and ability to do work in that area. And again, I work specifically in the water transaction side of things. I don't know if Noel is still on, who works on the habitat side for Trout Unlimited. And he may have something more to say, but yeah, if anyone has any questions, I think I'll just leave it there for now.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right.
Jessica. Yep, I am on.
Yeah,
So on the habitat side of things, we finished up several streams with the North Fork John Day Resiliency Project. These were Kelsey Creek, the confluence of Howard Creek and Desolation Creek, and North Fork Cable Creek. And that included about 124 structures. These were BDAs, large woody debris. And this was all hand-based, low-tech, process-based restoration work. So we got to engage a youth corps crew for about 4 weeks, and then some professional fallers for another week. So in total about 5 weeks of work. And yeah, I think we gave those streams a lot to work with. So we're excited to see what happens.
Great. Thank you. Jessica, if you want to put your contact info in the chat in case someone has questions about the water transactions, that would be great. You know, this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Next up, OED.
Great, thank you. I don't have very many updates for the partnership, except to say that there will be a survey coming out. It'll go to Hannah to distribute to partners. OEB is looking at hosting a gathering in 2023 of the cohort 1, 2, and 3 FIPS. We're still trying to determine the best location for that. So that's part of what the survey questions will be about. But it will be an opportunity for all of the FIP partnerships to come together to talk about challenges and successes that are unique to being in the FIP program. And the survey that will go out is going to have a list of potential agenda topics to get your input and feedback on. So be looking for that to come out in mid-October. And then I need to circle back with Herb and anyone else who was part of, I believe it was Hannah and Kristen, part of the monitoring conversation with OWEB monitoring staff. So there's still some funding available from OWEB to support a specific monitoring topic. And we just want to be able to circle back with the partnership about that. But otherwise, I don't have any other updates for folks. So thank you. This was a really informative meeting today and appreciate the ability to Zoom in. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks for joining. All right, the Confederate Tribes of the Umatilla.
Well, I don't want to steal the show from my staff, so, but John Sakrajek and Mitch Daniel, they would be best to give, as far as John Day accomplishments, an opportunity. But I did want to hit on, from a program level, where I sit, we did, as part of the geographic review with, you know, an ISRP process to justify Bonneville Power Administration funding, we did develop, as part of that, our staff and our GIS program finished developing our, you know, CTR Fisheries Habitat Program webpage. And so I'll put that link in the chat for folks, but I think it's a great accomplishment. It also integrates our C2R data management system and our own project tracker that's similar to the one that the partnership uses. It integrates that data and metrics into our touchstones, and so it highlights the work that we're doing, that John and Mitch are accomplishing. It shows by subbasin what individual subbasins are accomplishing within the Umatilla Tribes program. And it's a great tool. It lists all our assessments. It shows our program strategy. So if folks are interested in learning more about our approach to restoration and the work we're doing, they can go on our website and learn a lot about us. So, and see the great work that's being accomplished.
Great.
And that's all I had. Yeah.
If anyone out, John, Zach, or sorry, who else? Mitch. Oh yeah. If you guys want to share anything else, you might have to come up near the owl. I know it's a long ways away. It's good at sight, not hearing it much. Yeah.
So 3 accomplishments this year. One was actually done last year, the Granite Creek Restoration Project. But this year it held up to some pretty healthy flows. There was one area that we didn't see wet, that we wanted to see wet, so we're gonna have to, we're thinking about how to deal with that. But we did see a lot of water in the floodplain in places we did not expect it to see, which was great. It's actually real floodplain connectivity. We finished our Hidaway Creek project this summer. We'll see how that goes this next spring, and we're actually going to bid for Bull Run Creek. So that's 5 years in the making or something like that. So all the work we put into, I'm going to call that accomplishment.
Great. Thank you. Mitch, anything to add?
Yeah, I would just add that Hidaway Creek project, John Zach did a lot of heavy lifting on that. He put his heart and soul into it, and that project turned out really well. He doesn't take enough credit, but it's just a fantastic project. And if anyone can ever get out there to see it, we have great landowners that helped us with that, and it was a great one to check off the list. I've been focused on Desolation Creek Reach 3. And I would say that the major accomplishments there were jumping through all of the fiery hoops that we've had to jump through to get that thing on the ground. And then the second major accomplishment is that we are staying extremely positive and we're confident that we will break ground in 2022 on that project. So that's a little bit of an update for you guys as well. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Next up, we have BPA.
Yeah, this is Jesse Wilson. I'll chime in here, and Josh, if you have anything to add, please feel free to. I think, BPA's perspective, continued funding of work in the John Day Basin has been our major accomplishment, which helps facilitate all the great work that you all are doing out there, and definitely much appreciation on that. We are finally returning a little bit more to in person, and we've been able to get out there and travel and see some of the great work, including Hidaway Creek. I'll echo that the tribe just presented on. It was really awesome to see that project come to fruition. Also, Vincent to Vinegar, really excited to see that project. We were able to get out there earlier, and hope you all get to enjoy the tour this afternoon. And then the screens, passage, fencing, and all the low-tech process-based restoration that's occurred throughout the basin. We're just really appreciative of all the accomplishments that the partners have had out there. With that, I will say, too, everyone that had a habitat project in the basin was able to jump through the burning hoop of the Northwest Power and Planning Conservation Council review this spring. So great work there, and we look forward to seeing where we go in the future here. And I'd say a major accomplishment of the partnership, I'm really excited to see this Atlas data come to fruition, and everyone's efforts there on that. Hannah, all the work that you've done to get that to completion is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, Josh, anything to add?
No, I have nothing to add. I think Jesse did a really nice job, and I'll just tell everybody at the partnership, keep up the great work in the John Day.
Great, thank you. Okay, next up, Noah.
Hi, everyone. I guess a few things that this last year and last several months, again, NOAA released, if you're not aware, finally our 5-year status review for the interior Columbia Basin salmon and steelhead. We also released the interior Columbia Basin rebuilding salmon and steelhead strategy. So if you haven't reviewed those documents, those are fairly new from the agency. Some other things that we have going on, again, we had 4 different grant opportunities. This last one that I shared in the box that were through the infrastructure funding. Again, in the future, I anticipate those should be annually, at least for the next several years. So keep an eye out next fall or next summer if any of those were applicable to you. I think we had some good grants that were funded throughout our region with those opportunities. And again, we're just looking forward to how we can better support all of our partners with restoration. And I look forward to also working a little bit more with Freshwater Trust in their in-stream flow and their water transactions information. We definitely have some projects coming up that we're trying to better figure out how in-stream flow mitigation can kind of be incorporated with other projects. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I think we've hit all our organizations online that don't have representatives in person. Oh, except for Adrian. Yeah. Could you give us a little accomplishment to celebrate?
Does anyone in the room from ODFW want to give an accomplishment? I know there's about 6 of you, so.
Come up to the owl if you would, please.
Okay. Yeah. We can do them all for what accomplishments. Do you want to do, we can do fish screens first?
Yeah, can you come up to the owl? They're not going to be able to hear you. Thank you.
Well, this year we were able to accomplish 2 in-stream projects, Deep Creek in conjunction with the Forest Service and the North Fork John Day Watershed Council. Very successful phase 1 project, decommissioning, taking out 2 culverts, decommissioned road. Looks like a great project in the end. There will be a phase 2, so stay tuned in the next few years. And then for our second project, Upper Pine Hollow, that project is coming to a close probably the end of this week or next week, and it's looking really good. Removal of a couple of culverts and restoration of the stream back to more of historic condition. So things are looking really good there. We've also accomplished several other projects throughout the year, from pump screens to rotary drum fish screens, and just appreciate this partnership and working with all of our partners, looking towards the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. All right, yeah, who else from audience has any? Okay. Yeah.
So from fish research side, we pumped out 2 5-year and a 4-year completion reports. One was for the Middle Fork, and then the other one was for our 30-mile monitoring. Both of these reports compile all of our fish productivity information, our escapement and survival. More so on the 30-mile report, it also incorporates our habitat monitoring and how productivity and survival relate to the habitat monitoring. The third biggest completion, it's kind of underway, but we were able to get a really solid start on our genetics monitoring study. For those of you who don't know, this enables us to link fish birth location to their movement throughout their life. And it really represents our first opportunity to look at movement from this really tiny life stage that we can't look at with pit tagging. So it's pretty new technology that we've brought to the basin. And those efforts were really driven by Matt Keeler with CritFic, as well as the tribes. And so look forward to some of that data coming out. It's been really informative in understanding how the areas that we're restoring relates to where fish end up and their survival for those spots. So that's all of our accomplishments.
Oh yeah.
Okay, keeping it brief on the district side, we worked with Paul Sankovich a few years ago and did some eDNA work in the upper main stem. And we got a detection of a bull trout in Slide Strawberry Creek area, which we didn't know that there were bull trout still hanging on there. And so this summer we did put eyes in eShock and found 3 bull trout. So there is a bull trout population in Strawberry, which is exciting. We treated the trout farm pond for brook trout. didn't quite get a full kill, but we did Rotenone Trout Farm Pond to remove brook trout because there was a source of bucket transfer into the main stem. And then not an accomplishment, but just make sure everyone is aware why we closed the steelhead season. Wild numbers over Bonneville were in the 29,000 range from July 1st to mid-September, which is pretty much in the top 5 low run years for wild or unclipped fish. And then we had an SAR estimate of below 2%, which is not quite meeting our minimum abundance SAR numbers. And then we also predict that the hatchery steelhead strain into the John Day is going to be very low because Snake River small barge transport was the lowest it's ever been for the last 2 years. And we know that there's a very strong correlation. So unfortunately, it was like right on that gray line of 4-run SAR numbers. And then, you know, the nail in the coffin was very low predicted hatchery stray rates, which is the impetus for the fishery. So not an accomplishment, but figured before I get any more angry phone calls.
Great. All right, NRCS. I know, yeah, this was a
Like a hot potato or something. So I guess my update's only gonna be for Grant County, so kind of the top end of the watershed. And most of our work is focused more in the uplands. So we had some funding out in the Ritter country for doing juniper and pre-commercial thinning and aspen restoration. And then RCPP with the South Fork Watershed Council, also kind of more upland practices, stock water accomplishments there for this year. I guess just a couple of things, kind of some momentum. The district, Kyle got some Senate Bill 762 funding to do some fire mitigation in the basin, and I'll let him talk a little bit more about that. But there's kind of a group that's working on doing more fuels and fire reduction treatments. So we did successfully submit a Joint Chiefs application back in August, and we're hoping supposed to find out in September. So there's like a few days left, but basically that would be about $7.5 million NRCS, Forest Service, and ODF funding to do work from Mount Vernon up in the upper watershed. And then just, I'm sure folks are aware, the Inflation Reduction Act that got passed by Congress a few weeks ago. NRCS is anticipating a $20 billion increase in funding over the next number of years. So there's going to be some opportunities across all our programs, EQIP, CSP, RCPP, ASAP, AO. So that's what I got.
Thanks, Aaron. Next, Grant, SWCG. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So on the aquatic side, this week we just finished a planting project with the Warren Springs tribes on a Fox Creek, what we call the Vinegar project. We started a few years back, got the in-stream stuff done last summer, and basically it was a 3-foot concrete, solid concrete verse structure was put in Fox Creek, didn't have a fish screen. And the flashboard type design, so the flashboards were left in. It was about a 3-foot check in the creek itself, which really was providing a fish passage barrier with lots of life safety. So got that addressed last year. We put in some large wood to kind of reactivate some floodplains and give a little bit more diversity into the stream flow itself. So that got wrapped up, completed the plantings last week. We're kind of excited about this. We put together some there are Powder River panels with some log panel that we attach to the bottom to prevent smaller animals from coming in. But we have these kind of set up in like a long rectangle, a long narrow rectangle. And we're hoping that it'll stop elk from jumping in or a deer to get into, and put the smaller hog panel on the bottom to prevent some of the smaller rodents from getting out of the plantings as well. We see these as being portable, so we'll leave them in place for 5 years to repair and vegetation gets to the point where it can sustain itself, and then we'll move them on to the next spot. So it's going to be a little progress each year, but we're going to try to get as much riparian area as we can go on through these little enclosures. Our weed department's taking on responsibility for maintenance, so we'll be able to get out there a couple times a year and make sure that everything's still attached and working and functioning as proper. On the upland side, like Aaron mentioned, we've got a $1.7 million grant from the Department of Forestry for fuels reduction. We focused in specifically around the area around Prairie City and focused on fine fuels reduction. So we contracted with a helicopter company, put out 23,000 acres of herbicide product that will be very effective at knocking back annual grasses, which tend to act like gasoline in the case of a fire. And we're hoping, we also got about 25 landowners signed up to this. So we really kind of do a ring around Prairie City. The herbicide's good for about 3 to 5 years of doing its job and suppressing those annual grasses, which gives an opportunity for the perennial grasses to come back. And the fire behavior would be a lot different in those stands. It tends to patch burn and not go as fast as the finer fuel. So that complements a lot of work that we've been doing with juniper control and pre-commercial thinning in and around the same areas. It's all functional, basically going after fuel loads or to promote fire resiliency. There's 2 other components to that proposal, that funding source as well. We also received money to do with a partner with Oregon State University and work with them on something called a rapid assessment protocol. So one of this, we're getting more involved with cross-boundary treatments of conifers and juniper with the Forest Service. And one of the things we realized early on is the Forest Service has an army of people that go out and they can do assessments and understand their forest and what needs to be treated, prioritized treatments, et cetera. There's no equivalent to that on the private side. Everyone manages their property a little differently. Some people manage it for the grass, some for the timber, some just to come out and use it for recreation. So we teamed up with Oregon State University that developed a protocol using aerophotograph interpretation, in this case satellites, and GIS work. They have crews of people doing span delineations down to 5 acres. And then we have people on the ground that are going out and verifying the information from the stands. So they're getting tree type, density, mortality, disease. They're looking at the understory, fuel loads on the ground, et cetera. And then the final product would be a landowner report to the landowner, which tells them where they should start treating their property. It also helps us understand when these opportunities that Aaron mentioned come along for further work in the uplands, where within the watershed we should start treating and why we should start treating those areas. So it kind of serves multiple purposes. The district staff is totally trained up on this, and we're going to continue to work with Oregon State University to take this assessment that they're doing. And right now we're going from Mount Vernon up to the headquarters. We're looking to take that down to the valley and possibly other parts of the county as well. We have about 30,000 acres assessed right now. We're hoping to have another maybe, I'd say at least 10,000, maybe 20, 25, 30,000 acres possibly done with red snake flies. And with the reports being issued to the landowners this winter, we're also talking about several different outreach opportunities, probably here in the pavilion with the landowners that participated. One of the things we're seeing kind of across the board is even though these treatments are occurring, there's really not enough material being taken out. The forests are still a little bit overstocked and really not able to achieve a level where they can be a little more fire resilient. So we're going to have more outreach efforts on that with the landowners. The third thing I'll report on quickly too, as part of that grant, we also received funding to work with OSU to develop a story map. It's kind of a multimedia outreach effort that is something we're envisioning to be kind of a living record of the work that we're doing, the partnerships we developed in the history of the John Day Valley with regards to vegetation management and other things too. So that's going to be hit pretty hard this winter. We're working on it right now, seeing some drafts. The Oregon State University team we're working with actually developed one for the Labor Day fires back in 2020 and won, I think, some international awards for that. So we've got a real good team that we're working with. Bayer Corporation has also been very helpful in supporting us in this. They sent out a professional film crew from Chicago and St. Louis, and they were here for a week to try to capture some of the video content that we'll use in the story map to tell the story of the work we've been doing in the uplands with NRCS and the work that we several partners. projects as well.
Right, yeah, the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs.
Okay, so I feel like I can keep it fairly short because our biggest accomplishment is actually on the agenda for today. It's the Vincent Vinegar restoration project. And that's something that's made up of a bunch of smaller accomplishments, all of the planning and preparation that went into it, coordinating salvage, the actual construction, and then ongoing efforts for monitoring, planting, and fencing. It's been really great to see it come together, and it's the culmination of a lot of work that a lot of folks have put in over the last few years and agencies. And I'm excited to be able to share it with you all.
We had a question in the chat. Denise wants to know where and when will the story map be published? It was a little hard.
We're expecting the story map to be released this winter. Our funding ends June 30th. In terms of where, I don't think we've quite resolved. It'll probably be posted to OSU's website until, and then we'll look to post and maintain from there on out. But still kind of an ongoing discussion on the end. But hopefully this spring we'll have something definitely by early summer.
Thank you.
Right, Wheeler Studies Week. Those of you who don't know me, I'm Cassie Wheeler. I'm the admin manager. I'm not in conservation, so if I speak out of term, you can correct me. I think our biggest restoration accomplishment would be in Butte Creek. Through some trouble with permitting, we finally have work going in on the ground in Butte Creek for process-based restoration. The project's going to include 257 structures across 9 miles from the confluence and 800 plants over the next couple of years in 84 acres with some fencing. It'd be a pretty rad project, I think, once it gets in. We have been working pretty hard on our weed program in Wheeler. It took us a few years, but we're now independent with ODA with our grants. Probably close to 1,200 acres over the last year has been treated across the county or districts. And we've also been able to obtain funding to get our own equipment to develop an in-house cost share program. Non-restoration related, but we successfully purchased a piece of property essentially located along the John Day River that we're looking to put in a facility that's going to include up to 7 offices that will be open for rent for other agencies, as well as an education and conference center for the community. COR.
Similar to Orange Tribe, biggest accomplishment is helping to facilitate the Vinegar to Vincent project on the Middle Fork. We've spent many years developing that project with the tribe, and it's great to see it finally put on the ground. So it was, I commend the Orange Tribe staff. They did a over the top job of staffing that project and making sure it got done. Really appreciate the effort that went into that. Other projects, Murders Creek project, which has been dragging along because of cultural resource issues. We finally got shovel test probes done this summer and think we have a path forward to be able to get that working with the Watershed Council for next summer. So there's sort of an accomplishment there. Hopefully it'll be a real accomplishment next summer. And then just several other projects, one on Caribou Creek confluence with the National Forest, Mayan tailings reach there, doing a full channel reconstruction there. We're making some progress on that design and modeling. Hope to have more of that out for review in the next few months. And then a few other projects we're just starting the planning process on, and we'll have more about them next go around. Thanks.
Forest Service? Okay.
Okay, so this year, where Tracy already mentioned, Deep Creek was a big project for us. It was about 1.5 miles of road obliteration, floodplain recontouring, and it also removed a priority fish barrier. So that's exciting. And it finished up the big mosquito wrap for the Bear Sub watershed. So it's nice to have. And then we also did Beaver and Ruby Creek, which also goes into the Middle Fork. And that was all wood placement mostly. Probably total around 2 miles. Those 2 creeks. Then we also did a project on Big Creek. Also goes into the Middle Fork. And that was a lot of wood placement in the floodplain. There have been previous projects in that area, so we just kind of added to it. And all 3 of those were with the North Fork John Day Partnership Council, and Deep Creek was with ODFW. And so thank you to our partners for
North Fork John Day Partnership Council? Everyone's getting their exercise this morning. I'm going to keep it kind of quick, and then if Alex or Jaden want to say anything. This year, we've been working on updating our strategic action plan. As part of the effort, we did a community survey and stakeholder survey, and that was really interesting and valuable. And I think it's really driving sort of our direction and our focus. We should finish that up by the end of the year. So it's been a long process, really good, and I'm excited to see that finish up. We purchased our office building, or the where our office is, and the acre of land that it sits on. So that was really exciting. We've rented it for like over a decade, and so nice to own it now. And then we're going to start a native and rare plant landscaping project on the property this fall. So we're really excited to be able to demonstrate some drought tolerant plants, and then potentially establish a local seed source. And then, as you heard, we had a very productive season with in-stream season with lots of partners. I think we finished up 5 projects that have been in the works. Really busy. And that's all that. Do you guys want to? ODF.
Hi, Brandon Ferguson. I just came here in July of last year, and it's really exciting to have moved out to fire country. I've been a firefighter for 23 years. Worked with a lot of fuels and a variety of positions out there. Our big 3 for the year at a legislative Senate Bill 762, there's $25 million offered, and nearly $2 million was awarded to the John Day Upper John Day Valley Basin. And so through a small forest land grant, we were able to acquire about $80,000, which supported 18 landowners. All the funds have already been promised. We've already paid out on some of those for defensible space and wildland fire fuels mitigation. through some of our Firewise communities as well, south of Highway 26 from Lake Hawk Creek out to Pine Creek area. We also were able to fund the county. I'm glad they were able to speak on that because that was a large scale, 26,000 acres, 23,000 acres of fine fuels mitigation. So $20 million of that pot went to landscape scale restoration, and $5 million went to small forest landowners and their opportunities there. And there was you had to own 640 acres or less in Eastern Oregon to have your lands treated on that. We were actually able to acquire another 80 acres just south in that area that was funded by Senate Bill 762 as well. So the benefit of that is that we showed success. The money was mostly spent off that. So when we look at legislation next year, they will offer that. And that's probably the biggest benefit there. So I would look forward to another 25 million coming out next year. I'd be ready by December for your projects. If you're looking for anything throughout the John Day watershed there. And there may have been other projects throughout the watershed out to the Columbia that I'm missing. So sorry about that if that's possible, but it's coming. We also, another thing to celebrate is our South Fork John Day partnership. I came into a year and a half into a 3-year landscape scale restoration that was #1 in the nation when it came out. They worked on that for about 5 years to actually get it through. Sadly, they put it in for about 8 years ago funding. And so the opportunity to accomplish as many acres as we hoped was not quite there. But we actually have a bid tour going on the 29th of this month. It involves the Flat Creek area. We were able to acquire funding and partnership from OWEB to support the local landowner next door for the Widows Creek Ranch. U.S. Forest Service has been able to get categorical exclusion to treat the lands coming off of the shake table that were not previously treated. We've been able to work with Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife to treat approximately 250 acres for forest health and welfare fuel mitigation through that. So that's all up and coming and really exciting. And we're hoping we can extend a little bit on it, but we'll see. It doesn't close until July of next year. We have a community wildfire defense grant where you can request up to $250,000 for community wildfire protection plans. And we actually worked with 5 counties on that. So there's 3 of those that you probably see coming up on the docket. And then there's another $10 million, up to $10 million grants coming off of that. And that expires October 7th for fire mitigation and self restoration. So that's up and coming. And I'd say that probably the biggest accomplishment that we have is the partnerships that we've built with local government, local community organizations, nonprofit organizations, as well as private landowners who we serve. And I would welcome others to that table. Please get a hold of me if you have mitigation issues you'd like to take care of and you want to get in on that monetary opportunity. And this one offers a lot of opportunity for equipment. There's a 25% match that's requested off of it. With all the programs and the money that's been moving through, I'm sure we figure out how that's already being spent. Those are the big ones, you know, in the last year. Definitely the partnerships have just built and so much accomplishment that I'm seeing even this. It's just really exciting. Thank you.
Thanks. Mid-John Day, Wildfire Council?
We had a lot of organizational accomplishments this year. We've officially changed our name to Mid-John Day, no more hyphenation. Sorry, Bridge Creek, we still include you, but not in the name. We've got a couple new board members, Camille Brooks and Tim Brimrose. We've taken all of our fiscal in-house, and moved our office to Spray. I'm getting that set up now. Hopefully next month we'll have an open house, so please welcome to come check us out. And we're getting set up to do a logo contest. You know, new name, new logo, you know, new office, all sorts of fun things. So if anybody has any artistic friends, I'll send that out when we're closer. Project wise, we're still doing a lot of upland projects, Bridge Creek and Kaler Creek. We're still working there. Those projects usually have an NRCS component, so I appreciate that match. We are in like the second year of juvenile steelhead monitoring in Bear Creek. Last year was pretty tough to monitor juvenile steelhead when there wasn't any water in there, but and then continuing that and exploring some more in-stream projects in the future. We need to update our strategic plan also. I think the community survey is probably a great idea. I might incorporate that. Thanks.
Monument SWCD.
Not going 3 years of pandemic and standing in front of a group of 30 people, so pretty fun to be up here right now. I guess I would just say I'm really happy with our capacity. For our first year, we did 3 projects this year, and we have 4 in the hopper for 2023. And then I just highlight our partnerships with Grant Weed Control, Malheur National Forest, Umatilla National Forest, and the Watershed Council. It's just been really great to see the district kind of reaching out and, just kind of working with the partnership to get work done. So that's all I got. Thanks.
South Fork John Day Watershed Council.
Yeah, our highlights for the year, like Brandon said, working on that LSR project has been great, working cross boundaries with the ODFW wildlife area, the private landowner and the Forest Service. That's been really exciting to see that all come together. We're still working on our RCPP through NRCS. We're good partners there. We're on our 3rd round of signups. A lot of landowner interest, so we've been out getting projects put together with the landowners and getting them signed up. Also working a lot with the BLM lately with their Good Neighbor Authority money that they're funneling through OWEB. We've been able to implement 6 out of a project list of 15 that they were able to get clearances on. So there's that pot of funding, and then we're also working with the BLM on grazing management, getting fences in place and whatnot. And then we've been doing a large stakeholder engagement campaign. It's kind of in conjunction with the LSR grant, doing some youth education. And we're also going to be sending surveys out to our landowners. So landowners are going to get a lot of Watershed Council surveys. So those will be going out this month, and hope to use that information to apply for these large pots of funding, like maybe RCPP renewal or the American Beautiful Challenge, or these different pots that are coming out. So anything I missed? Another great project is the Murders Creek project. There's a ton of partners on that. We're really hoping, that's been in the works for 4 years now. That's Hannah's project. She's doing a great job, but yeah, hopefully we'll get to implement that next year and give you a good update on that.
NRCS. We actually have 6 forestry staff now. 4 NRCS foresters.
The mountain interest.
So our biggest accomplishment of the year is actually not in the basin, but I'm going to talk about it because it was a 4.5-year project. We closed one of the biggest conservation easements, well, the biggest one we've ever done, one of the biggest one that's been done in the state. 8,878 acre working cattle ranch in Baker County with sage grouse. That one was funded in partnership with NRCS and OWEB. Really great landowners, connectivity to the national forest, and huge project to finally have done off our plates. We're really excited about that one. As you all know, we bought Phipps Meadow last year in the summer, so we have been working through gathering all of our baseline data, figuring out what's there and what we need to do, working with partners here in this room on starting to plan for restoration. We just had environmental science associates out of Portland come out and do a full natural resource inventory to figure out what upland plants, species are there so that we can incorporate that information into our restoration plan. So we should be receiving that data any day now. So really excited to see what we have going on and how that can shape our work going forward. Lastly, one of the biggest things we're really excited about is a funding program, the Oregon Agricultural Heritage Program, which is a land acquisition or easement program that's designed to fund working lands easements. The biggest challenge for us has over the last few years has been finding funding that fits all of our working lands projects here in Oregon. We have NRCS that will fund half, and we need to find a state match source. So we've been part of lobbying efforts and a coalition of Cattlemen's Association, Farm Bureau, and the Coalition of Oregon Land Trusts to push funding for this program. And the program was awarded this year $5 million to start funding conservation easements. We'll be applying for 2 easements in that program, one of which is 3,000 acres here in Grant County. And we're hoping that this will be a successful first grant round so that additional money comes into that program to match the influx of money we know is coming to NRCS. And we have a long list of backlog interested landowners in this basin and elsewhere in Eastern Oregon that we're really hoping to start getting some projects put in the ground. So it's nice to see all those speeches and tours pay off in terms of getting money in that program.
Then I think Ross is going.
Well, I think the biggest accomplishment we had already talked about is our integrated water resource plan being adopted by the state. As far as projects, we finished 2 process-based restoration projects this summer, both on 30 Mile Creek, totaling 7.5 miles, 480 structures. One project was about 6 miles and connected with the project that was 4 miles long that we did in 2020, continuous process-based restoration from basically the Wheeler County, Dillon County line downstream. So that was great. And then we've also been involved with an RCPP, did a really good stakeholder campaign, engagement campaign prior to that project. Kind of opened the floodgates and had a lot of people come in. And so we're working on 50+ contracts to get this project on the ground. Management, forest improvement, spring developments. And then to the Watershed Council, the East Watershed Council. Katie just started in February, and since then she's enrolled 6 small grants, learning, doing her onboarding, lots of training. She also finished a I don't know if you guys have seen them. It's like a 3D topographic sand table for the kids. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, baby. Is there any organization that
Anyone else on the phone that'd like to say something?
Anybody have any questions or how you accomplishments and we'll follow up on without any time? Do you have any questions?
I'm just gonna throw out something about the organic heritage program that isn't as widely. So there is a sub-program in there that is the development of a conservation management plan for tribes and animals to implement stewardship measures on their properties. That grant round is open right now, and those grants applications are due October 31st. So that is a component that's designed to be complementary to these things. So if you're really interested, I think we would. Exactly. We're not for each application, but it is another resource.
Any other questions or follow up? Okay. Well, that is basically our meeting. We have some lunch coming in the back. Amy, do you want to tell us about lunch? Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I think a lot of you might have seen my email in your inbox way more than you wanted to during salvage that we had, but I wanted to say thank you so much for everyone for being so flexible with all the changing times and then eventually just getting the quick shot approach for like 3 days of really intense salvage. But I wanted to, in case anybody didn't hear, we salvaged about probably over 5,000 fish out of the stream, over close to like 1,500 mussels. I'm not sure the exact number of lamprey, but like a lot of lamprey. And yeah, and I think in those adults or in the fish count, we got about 100 adults out there, adults up. And we couldn't have done that without all of you guys. So thanks again. We really appreciated it.
Yeah, great, thanks. Yeah. Any other final updates? We have plenty of time to share updates. Anyone online want to share anything else? Okay. So next steps. This afternoon, we'll be going to the B2B site. So we're planning on getting to the site at 1:45 and being done there at 3. So if you want to arrange your own carpooling or just getting there, the coordinates are in the calendar appointment. If you're confused, just click on that. You'll see more Ask Hannah or me. Yeah, we'll have lunch before that. We're going to leave here around 1. So yeah, anything else to add, Hannah?
Nope. Thank you all for coming today. It was really good to see everyone's faces in person. So yeah.
Yeah, and I encourage you when you get your lunch, like we can pull chairs around so you can talk on the side too. You don't have to stay exactly where you are. But yeah, enjoy being in person. Great, thank you.
Thanks everyone on the phone.
Let me